There are many mysteries when it comes to the Essex boys case and the murders of Pat Tate, Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe in December 1995. The biggest mystery was who was the shooter of the three deceased. Another would be why they were really down the lane that evening and what was their real intentions of being there. And if we are to believe they were killed a lot later than according to Darren Nichols, then where were they between 7 p.m. and say midnight if you believe in Billy Jasper's version of events? Also, another mystery concerning the three would be who was the driver of the Ford white Cosworth, seen several times with the Range Rover on the 6th of December, and if we're led to believe it's the same Ford Cosworth, seen at the entry of the lane at 10 to 7 on the 7th of December, just a mere hour and 10 minutes before the official discovery of the Range Rover from the farmers Peter Fearbold and Ken Jiggins. The first sighting of the Range Rover with a white vehicle was on the morning of the 6th of December around about 10:30. Now this was seen by Frances Fearbold, who runs the shop at White House Farm. Now she stated it was either Tuesday the 5th or Wednesday the 6th during the day, and she could recall a white car pull onto the property. She thought nothing of this because the vehicle was followed by what she believed was a green Range Rover. She took notice of the vehicle for two reasons. Firstly, we'd considered purchasing a vehicle of the same type, and also the occupants of the Range Rover were large white males. I am aware that Mr. Jackson runs a business called Bellaricki Bailiff Services. Therefore, because of the general demeanour of the occupants of the Range Rover, I just assumed they were going to call it Mr. Jackson's outbuilding. I saw the white vehicle, of which I could give no further detail, drive in. It did not stop but continued along to the second exit. The Range Rover followed behind, and I formed the opinion that the two vehicles were together. Neither vehicle stopped and drove out of the gate and back onto the road towards the Rettendon Turnpike. I remember thinking, cheeky buggers. I have tried to put a time to the incident. It was daylight and it was not snowing. I believe that it could have been whilst our assistant was helping my husband, which caused me to be outside in the farm shop area. If this was the case, it would have been the Wednesday morning, before 10:30 hours. The Range Rover I saw was an F registration. There was at least two occupants. The passenger in the front seat had a cream-coloured sleeve. I've seen photographs in the newspaper of the victims of the shooting incident. The people in the Range Rover were of a similar description to these. The passenger in the Range Rover had light brown hair. He also had what I would call a jolly fat face, aged under 40 years old. As previously mentioned, I cannot give any description of the occupants or type of car described as the white vehicle. So unfortunately there's no real description of the white vehicle, what type of make, or whether it even really was the Sierra Cosworth that was seen later on during the day with the Range Rover. The description of the passenger mentioned in the Range Rover does sound like Tony Tucker. So if this was Tony Tucker and Craig Rolfe driving, and they were at Rettendon White House Farm that morning, then how are we to believe that by Darren Nichols saying that Michael Steele was showing the three individuals the field that evening just before 7 o'clock? In all intentions, Tony knew that farm, knew that area and knew that lane and had been there just that morning. But this sighting of the Range Rover at the farm with the white vehicle does add on to the mystery of what they were doing that early in the morning and why they were there, only to return later on in the evening, and if we're led to believe, killed there at midnight, or as some believe 6 in the morning, or if you want to go along with Darren Nichols' version of events, before 7 o'clock. But if either of those are true, why were they there that morning? What was their real reasons for being there, and who was the driver of the white vehicle? Clearly sounding like they're with the Range Rover, not chasing the Range Rover or the Range Rover chasing them. But the next statement makes you wonder what the situation between the white Cosworth and the Range Rover was, because the next witness states that they heard gunfire coming from the Cosworth while following the Range Rover. Now this could be just put down to the sound coming from the Cosworth. But this person with this statement states the sound they heard was 100% a gunshot coming from the Cosworth, and what they state was full of 5 people, and the Range Rover was just with the driver. If this is true, why would the Cosworth be chasing Craig if it's Craig's the driver and shooting at him? And who were the 5 people inside of the Cosworth? The following is a statement of Victor Furlow from the 6th of the 1st, 96. I live in a bungalow in Gainsborough Drive, Westcliff, Essex. Gainsborough Drive is a one-way residential road with many parked cars, which should restrict the speed of passing traffic. The speed limit is 30 miles per hour. About 11:45 a.m. on Wednesday the 6th of December, I was at home. Went into the front bedroom to shut the window. It has a square bay window and gives a good view out onto Gainsborough Drive. I looked out the bedroom window and saw a blue Range Rover, the Vogue style, being driven along the road, heading from West Road. It was driving fast, about 55 miles per hour, which is fast for a congested residential road. My attention was drawn to it because of the speed and my interest in Range Rovers. I could see there was only one occupant of the Range Rover, the driver. I could not describe the driver of the Range Rover. As it travelled along Gainsborough Drive, I could see it was being followed by a large, white, expensive-looking new car. It may have been a Granada, that sort of size, but it looked like a quality car. The white car had a black line, possibly a moulding along the side. This was about 6 inches wide at the bottom of the doors. It had 4 doors. It also had a large black rear bumper, which was considerably wider than the line on the side. It was travelling at the same speed as the Range Rover and only about 10 feet to its rear. There appeared to be 6 people in the white car. The driver appeared to be a male, white, short-cropped hair. He appeared to be too small for the car, seated very low. He also had a brown, multi-flex jumper on with orange markings. Underneath, he had a white shirt. I could see the collars sticking out from under the jumper. The front seat passenger appeared to have turned almost completely to face the people in the rear of the car. One of the rear passengers had his back up against the near side windows. The car appeared overcrowded. As the car passed, I could see another 3 rear seat passengers. As the white car passed, I heard a blast that I thought sounded like a shotgun blast. I've been clay pigeon shooting before and believe the blast I heard that to be of a shotgun. It was not a car backfiring. The white car swerved onto the offside of the road. The brake lights came on for a time. I thought it was going to stop. It did not. The car pulled into the centre of the road and continued to follow the Range Rover. Both cars went straight across the junction from Fairfax Drive, failing to give way. I stretched to watch them as long as I could. I saw both vehicles turn left onto the dual carriageway, a pressaway chase, and out of my view. I did not take any registration numbers of the vehicles. I did not think I would be able to recognise anybody in the 2 vehicles. Now, this sighting of the Range Rover with a white vehicle, which is described as possibly being a Granada, is a confusing one, because the witness does state that he believes that the people inside of the Cosworth were taking shots at the Range Rover. Now, he stated there was only one person in the Range Rover, the driver, possibly being Craig Rolfe. Now, why would the people inside the Cosworth that were seen just mere 45 minutes earlier at White Hart Farm then be taking shots in the middle of a congested street at the Range Rover with only one person inside the car and only one shot? It would make a lot more sense if the sound was just coming from the Cosworth itself and not the people inside taking shots at the Range Rover. Originally described as having 6 people in the white car, but then 2 in the front and 3 in the back. And this person says 100% that it was not a car backfiring. But who would be in the Cosworth taking shots at possibly Craig Rolfe? And who were the other people inside that white car, if it is indeed the Cosworth and not the Granada, as mentioned earlier? Now, later on that day, around about 5:15, but then changed to 5:45, the Range Rover is seen again with a white car around the area of the Retterton Turnpike, which is extremely close to White Hart Farm on Workhouse Lane. The following is the statement of Rebecca Carr from the 9th of the 12th, 95. I am employed by the governors of a grant-maintained school as head of department. At about 5:25 on the 6th of December 95, I was driving my red Vauxhall Astra car from Canvey Island to Malden and was at the lights on red at the Retterton Turnpike. I had moved onto the roundabout from the A130 from the general direction of Rayleigh. I was in the near side lane of the three cars, i.e. I was third from pole position at the lights. In the centre lane to my offside, I noticed at pole position a white Sierra saloon car, and I believe this had a C as the first letter of the registration number. Behind the Sierra was another vehicle I do not recall, and behind that was a dark coloured Range Rover. The Range Rover was slightly ahead of me to the offside. I could see two heavily built men in the front of the vehicle and a third sitting in the middle of the rear seat, who was leaning to one side and gave me the impression he was looking at the vehicles ahead. The man in the rear was of large build, and I could see he'd had his hair cut short at the rear, with clippers maybe, but longer on top. The man had dark skin and wore a dark jacket. One of the men in the front had lighter coloured hair, like a very light brown. I also noticed the passenger and driver of the Sierra were of very large build and stocky, and I could see no light between them. They seemed to fill the front of the Sierra. The passenger had his left arm resting on the door at the bottom of the passenger side window. He looked a very smart man in appearance. He gave the appearance of having money. He was wearing a smart, expensive-looking French coat with epaulettes, and this was a blue-green colour with an almost silky appearance. There may have been someone else in the rear of the Sierra, but I'm not sure about this. As the lights changed to green, the Sierra moved off at speed straight up the A130. The vehicle at pole position in my lane turned left to Wickford. The vehicle in the offside lane between the Sierra and the Range Rover turned right towards South Woodham. It was immediately obvious that the Range Rover was trying to keep up with that Sierra as he went two straight up to the A130 ahead. The section of the A130 is on a hill, two lanes quickly merging into one lane. There is one large arrow on the road indicating from the offside lane to merge with the near side. The Range Rover was struggling to keep up with the Sierra. That by now was some distance in front, and I slowed to let the Range Rover in front of me. We moved through the village, the Sierra moving fast, exceeding the speed limit, which I believe is 40 miles per hour. Then there was another car, then the Range Rover, then me. As we moved down the hill, I could see that the Sierra braked very, very hard, causing the unknown vehicle, the Range Rover, and me to brake hard. Even though the Sierra had some ground on us, I was concerned that the road could be icy. The Sierra had his offside indicator working and was waiting to turn into the car park of White House Farm, and as soon as the Range Rover saw this, he put his indicator on. The oncoming traffic was heavy and slow moving, and the traffic allowed the Sierra and the Range Rover to turn into the car park. I remember seeing a blue pickup transit-sized truck that had ladders stacked over the cab. I cannot remember if this vehicle actually let them across or was behind the vehicle that did. The car park is part of the farm shop. There is a round silo bin there. I looked to my right and could see the Sierra turning into a wide circle back towards the exit, and the Range Rover was turning the same way, but in a tighter circle towards the exit. I then moved away in the flow of traffic. At the time I observed these things, it was dark, the visibility was good, and I would describe the weather as a crisp, dry winter's evening. The Rettendon Turnpike roundabout is illuminated during the hours of darkness. I did not see the faces of the occupants of the Sierra, and only a partial view of the occupants of the Range Rover. Further to my previous statement made today, on the 9th of the 12th 95, I have now been shown two photographs. I was first shown a copy of a photograph. This I recognise as the man sitting in the back of the Range Rover that I previously described. Although I've been shown a copy of a photograph, this appears to have been one of the men in the front of the Range Rover, possibly the driver, who seemed to have longer hair than the man in the back, and his hair seemed to have a square appearance at the back. 2 days later, from the 11th of the 12th, 95, further to my previous statements made to the police regarding my sightings of a white Sierra saloon car and a dark-coloured Range Rover at the traffic lights on the Rettendon Turnpike roundabouts, from inquiries I have made regarding my movements about the relative time on the Wednesday the 6th of December 95. I now realise that this time was slightly later. I had called at Benfleet to drop off a friend of mine and quickly called into an estate agent's. I was at the Rettendon Turnpike around about 5:45 when I saw the vehicles I had previously described. So quite a lot of detail in Rebecca Carr's statement of the Range Rover being seen with the mysterious Sierra. Rebecca Carr went on to be a surprise witness in the defence case of Michael Steele and Jack Womes and told the court that a Range Rover was next to her in the lane and she could see the three men inside it. She couldn't see the driver perfectly clear, but there was someone in the front passenger seat. When asked what she noticed about the build of these two men, she replied they were very, very large, very muscular big men. Miss Carr also revealed there was a passenger in the back, leaning forward between the front two seats. She said, he struck me as being massive basically. So it seems for certain the descriptions she gave were in fact Tony Tucker, Pat Tate and possibly Craig Rolfe as the driver, again being seen with the white Sierra at White House Farm in the car park. The same place they were seen earlier that day, and just an hour and 15 from the time we're meant to believe that they were killed, according to the version of events by Darren Nichols. Not only does Rebecca Carr state that she saw the Range Rover at the Rettendon Turnpike at 5:45, that is pretty much the exact same time as Donna Jaggers was saying she was dropped off at the Lakeside Shopping Centre by Craig Rolfe to buy a new dress for their meal that was booked for later on that evening. The final statement, containing a white vehicle, is the following morning at 7:10 on the 7th of December, just, again mentioned earlier, an hour and 10 minutes before the official finding of the Range Rover by the two farmers. Also remembering there is the rumour of the phone call to DC Bright about the discovery of the Range Rover. This was meant to be taking place around between 6 to 6:30. Does this go in line with the sighting of the Cosworth being seen at the entrance of the lane? And there are those that believe that the three were killed in the early hours of the morning around about 6 o'clock. Could this sighting of the Cosworth go along with that? No one has ever come forward to state that they were the driver of the white Cosworth seen with the Range Rover that day. Who could have been the driver that was seen all them times and impossibly at 7:10 the following morning? And did they or were they involved in the murders of Pat, Tony and Craig? The following statement is from David Reeves from the 9th of the 12th, 95. I am a self-employed bricklayer and have been working in Kingsley, Norfolk. I normally leave home about 6:15 each morning and travel along the A130 towards Chelmsford and then pick my way up through the back roads to work. On Thursday the 7th of December 95, I left home at between 6:15 and 6:20. I drove my normal route and went through Rettendon about 6:50. The traffic was quite heavy going through the village, presumably due to the weather. As I came out of the village and went round the left-hand bend and down the hill, I saw a white Ford Cosworth on my offside. The car was white in colour and was very clean. This is what made it stand out to me because the roads had been very dirty due to the weather. It was definitely a sapphire-style Cosworth with spoked alloy wheels and a spoiler on the boot lid. It was a full-spec vehicle with low-profile tyres. It was parked on the pavement facing towards Southend in a gateway or access with its two driver's side wheels on the road. It was parked in such a way that it wasn't causing a problem because cars were driving past it. Although the light was poor and it was necessary to have main beam lights on, I am sure that there was no one with this vehicle. I would put the age of the Cosworth at approximately F or G registration. I did not see the vehicle index, but I estimate the age by the style of the car and the fact that it had square rear lights instead of the wraparound lights. The car was only in my view for the time that it took me to drive past and was only the distance of the road width away from me. I am sure no one was with the car. On my way home, I heard the radio news regarding the incident at Rettendon that day, and upon passing through the area again, I saw the spot, which I had previously seen in the Cosworth, had been taped off and a police officer was standing there. I estimate the passing at 8 p.m. If all these statements contain the same white vehicle being seen with the Range Rover on the 6th of December, then is this the same Cosworth being seen at the entrance of the lane on the 7th of December, just an hour before the discovery, well, the official discovery of the Range Rover from the farmers Peter Theobald and Ken Jiggins? And if this was the same Range Rover being seen in the morning of the 6th of December at White House Farm and again in the evening, does this mean this white vehicle is involved in the murders, or perhaps knows what went down? 10 to 7 on the 7th of December, when we're meant to believe that all three individuals were killed at 7 o'clock, 12 hours before. Who was the driver of that white Cosworth? We're probably never going to know. And if the individuals in the white Cosworth aren't connected to the murders of Pat, Tony and Craig, is it possible that the individuals that were driving that vehicle on the 6th of December, seen several times with the Range Rover, are the ones that really did find the bodies of Pat, Tony and Craig at the top of the lane early that morning? Or what was the other reasons for that white Cosworth being seen at the entrance of the lane if it was the same vehicle seen several times with the Range Rover on the day before? But if these statements are all true, then what they do is they throw doubt onto the statements made by Donna Jaggers and, of course, Darren Nichols. Because if we're led to believe the three did not know the field and did not know their area, then why they'd already been seen there twice that day. And plus, there's the time discrepancy between Donna Jaggers being dropped off at Lakeside and the witness statement of Rebecca Carr seeing the Range Rover at the Rettendon Turnpike. Just like the shooters of the three, we're probably never going to find out who was the driver of this mysterious Cosworth, or who were the 5 or 6 individuals following the Range Rover earlier that morning. There are several other witness statements claiming to have seen the Range Rover or a similar looking Range Rover around the lane on the 6th of December, which we'll be going over in the next video in this series.